So I'd like to have a conversation with you today about conversations. And the thought came to me when my daughter got engaged a few weeks ago. And I started thinking about 22 years ago, which will actually be in about a week and a half, it'll be 22 years since my wife and I got engaged. And thinking about how we went about letting people know and how people interacted with us to give us congratulation wishes and mazel tov wishes versus what happened a few weeks ago. See, 22 years ago, there was no social media. Cell phones were new. There was no internet practically. Certainly very few people were using it. Texting was not a thing yet. So when we wanted to let people know that we were engaged, we had no cell phones. We had to use good old-fashioned home phones. Whether I called from my house, whether my wife called from her parents' home, we called together. And slowly the word got out. The people who we left messages or we reached told us how excited they were or called us back to convey their mazel tov wishes. People in Israel who I called said, "We heard a rumor that you might be engaged. Is that true? We're so excited. That's amazing, but we didn't know for sure." People started calling in based on what they'd heard from somebody else who said. And there was one funny episode where the Saturday night that we got engaged, there were a couple of other men studying in the same yeshiva as me who got engaged that same night. One who looked like me in terms of hair color, black with a touch of salt, some salt and pepper. And the only difference was I was 25, he was 42. But our hair color was pretty similar. And I met a man a few weeks later who knew me from yeshiva, and he came over and he said, "Wow, I heard you're engaged. I'm so excited. It's unbelievable, amazing. Who would have thought?" I'm thinking, I'm 25 years old. What's the big deal? Then I realized he thought I was the other guy. He was so excited. A 42-year-old got engaged. He just couldn't get over it. So that's what happened back then. I remember sitting in my parents' kitchen when my father's rabbi, an elderly, saintly rabbi, called to convey his mazel tov wishes and how exciting that was. Fast forward 22 years, as soon as my daughter called from the car to let us know that she was engaged to Shmuel, our soon-to-be son-in-law, immediately I took it out my smartphone and I went to the 6 or 7 important WhatsApp chats that I'm a part of from the Data Plano community, the Data rabbis, my family WhatsApp chat with relatives in New York, the WhatsApp chat of different rabbis in different places that I'm part of, my colleagues. And then I went upstairs, since I have Facebook blocked on my phone because I don't want to waste that much time on Facebook. I went upstairs to the computer and I posted on Facebook that my daughter was engaged. And the mazel tov texts and WhatsApps and posts on Facebook started flooding in. But then I said, wait a second, so-and-so is a close friend of mine. I would have thought he would have called. She's a student of ours. I thought she would have conveyed a mazel tov. Do you think so-and-so reads Facebook posts, so maybe they don't know? And I reached out to some people and I said, hey, what's going on? What's doing? I said, in the conversation I kind of wove in, my daughter's engaged. Oh, yeah. I responded on Facebook. You didn't see my WhatsApp post, my WhatsApp chat text? You didn't see the text that I sent you? And I was like, oh, maybe I didn't see that. Maybe I forgot. But it just didn't feel right that I received a text or a post on Facebook instead of a call from somebody so close to me. But then I realized that I have to look deep inside myself. And you know what? I started this chain. I started this mode of communication by posting it on Facebook, by sending it on WhatsApp. So I created that communication. People responded. Maybe had I called, they would have called me back. Or had I called certain people, the word would have gotten out and they would have communicated via the phone instead of via texting or smartphone or social media. Social media, I would like to believe, was not created to create distance between people. But unfortunately, many of us use these forms of communication to create exactly that. Recently, somebody left me a message. They had tried to call me. They couldn't reach me. They left me a message. It was a voicemail. And I just didn't like they were putting a certain responsibility on me that I did not appreciate. So what did I do? I left a WhatsApp voice note for them saying, well, actually, the situation is different, and this is what I think you should be doing. And the person told me afterwards, it came across a little curt leaving me that message. It just didn't sound right. And I said, right, Why did I leave a message like that? Why did I do that? I should have called them back. Recently, I received a text from somebody not long ago that was pretty strong and accusatory of something which, in this instance, I actually was not guilty of. And I responded exonerating myself. And then the person responded to me and I said, you know what, this is all wrong. Why am I texting? This is exactly what I tell people not to do. I picked up the phone, we had a conversation, we cleared it up. And then the person came to me the next day and communicated further, face to face. That's the way to communicate. We've used social media, we've used texting, we've used email as a way to create barriers, as a way to say things that we never would say in person. But you know what? If you wouldn't say it in person, don't send a text. I told somebody recently who was part of a WhatsApp chat, and the person was being overly strong in their reactions on WhatsApp. I said, if you would not say that in person, don't post it on WhatsApp. Don't communicate that way. If it's something you would say in person, I still say it in person. But if you can't for whatever reason, then at least there's room to send it via social media as well. But if you wouldn't say it, don't say it. A human being is referred to as a medaber, someone who speaks. But the word daber is connected to the word davar, thing. In other words, everything comes into being through speech. I create, just as God creates through speech, I create realities, I create relationships. I create whole ways of relating to others through speech. The word dabar also means leadership. A leader is referred to as a dabar. I lead, I direct, I guide through communication. And then people react to me through speech, but the most powerful way is speech. The verse says in Mishlei in Proverbs, Kemayim panim al panim kem lev adam. Just as when you look at the water, you see your own reflection, so too somebody else's heart. What's going on in their heart is just an expression of what's coming from you. If I want to have healthy, good communication with people, I need to start. I need to be courageous in my communication. I need to have courageous communication in what I say. Don't hide behind a text. Don't hide behind WhatsApp or Facebook. Whether it's to be a bully, whether it's even to say something positive that you don't have the courage to say. No. Speak it out. That's leadership. That's creating. That's creating relationships. I remember many, many years ago, a man came to me and he read an email his father had sent him. And he read it with such anger and such frustration and such hurt. I said, do you know if your father actually meant all that? You are understanding that from his email. Who says that he meant it? Unfortunately, his father didn't call and communicate directly, and therefore he was able to put all of that very possibly inaccurately into that email. There's nothing like verbal communication, and there's nothing like face-to-face communication, looking in somebody's eyes and getting what they're saying or getting what they're understanding. A wise student of mine once told me, she said, in life you need to make sure that the message received is the message sent. Sometimes I hear something, but that's not what the other person intended. Or the other person hears something and that's not what I meant. When you communicate verbally, courageously, you can say, that's what I'm hearing from you. Is that correct? There's such a pleasure. It's such a pleasure when you communicate with somebody who's a courageous communicator. Recently I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and we communicated, and he said, this is what I'm understanding from you, and this is what I'm hearing from you, and I said, this is what I'm understanding. It wasn't anything contentious, but it was something that was spoken out. We understood each other, and we understood the priorities and the values of each other. So beautiful, so powerful. So what I don't want is, well, maybe I do want, is a lot of phone calls now wishing me mazel tov on my daughter's engagement. It would be nice, but that's not my point over here. My point is, learn from my mistake and get out there and communicate. You want someone to know something, call them. Call them, go meet with them. And let's create a revolution of positive communication.